And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Pug Thompson.
100% agree.
And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
Well, hello to everyone, and welcome back to the Weighing In podcast, where my man Josh Thompson and I are going to talk about all things MMA, and there is a bunch of past stuff that we're going to start talking about, getting into things like weights and what people do and all kinds of good stuff. So we want you to tune in and bring a friend along with you, because God damn it, they'll enjoy the ride, I promise. So what's up, my man?
What's going on, man? Dealing with some sickies in the house, and we're just having some fun. But other than that, we're doing well, man. There's a lot that we're going to cover today. We're actually going to go back and recap a little bit of the Islam and Volkanovski fight. We're going to spin that a little bit and talk about what we said on our last show. So if you haven't seen our last show, hit pause on this one, go back to the last show, watch that one through the Islam talk and the Volkanovski talk, and then come on back and visit us, and we'll just talk to you about what our thoughts are now after the dust is settled. And hopefully you guys have went back and rewatched that fight a little bit. But before we carry on, make sure you guys hit subscribe, hit the little thumbs up and the bell. We want to thank you guys for supporting us. Go to WeighingInMerch.com, pick up some of our apparel, and also, as you guys know, or most of you guys know, is that we just launched our partnership with OnlyFans. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Dial it down a little bit. Look, our partnership with OnlyFans is to help bring in the MMA fans to this platform. You've got people like Chris Cyborg that are on that platform. Luke Rockhold's on that platform. AJ McKee's on that platform. Brent Primus is on that platform. You've got a lot of athletes now are transitioning over there to show their techniques, really try to build their brand. So we're also here to help push our MMA athletes as best we can. And we're going to bring in you guys a lot of extra content behind the scenes. Like Podcast Dave has put up some extra content up there already that is free. So you guys go to OnlyFans, check it out. Go to onlyfans.com/weighing-in. You guys can check it out. Check out our content. It's all free right now. So it's free for you guys. Just go out there, check it out.
Let us know what you think of what Dave put out there, because I'm being honest, I'm very proud of Podcast Dave and what he did. He did a great job putting that together, and it's a great little, composite of what it's like to be at an event before it happens. The whole thing of, the time just before the fights start, after the fights. It's all good, and Dave did a great job with it. So,
well, it's like people get to see the inside and the backstage of the arenas that most people don't get to see. Like that walk down at the Forum with all the names on the side. It's just iconic. Cool. I mean, you see that. You kind of see what we get to do beforehand, whether it's the rehearsals, whether it's, just leading up to the fights.
Whether we screw around a little bit.
Yeah, which we do.
All the time.
There's just a lot of fun, and like also some of the social gatherings that we get to come across. Dan Henderson, Mark Coleman. You've got top level fighters that we got to engage with and talk to, and they're going to be around. And there's going to be more of this stuff coming. So check it out. It's free right now. Go and check it out at onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Look, John, there's a lot to talk about in terms of fights. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happened with Islam and Volkanovski, how you look at the pound for pounds. That's a little recap on that. Also, too, on the effects of the weight cutting. And since we are talking about weight cutting, I saw a little clip that Luke Thomas had pulled up, and it was done by, I can't remember who, but I think Dave's got it. Anyways, talking about the weight cutting from there, and now how they're coming to the States and how one will be affected by the weight cutting situations as well. So there's a lot going on.
One's going to have to do something completely different than what they've been doing. Mm-hmm. But we've talked about one's weight cutting before, and it's when you get right down to it, there's all kinds of reasons why the weight situation is what it is, and people can like it or they can dislike it. Mm-hmm. And I understand both sides of it. But when you're talking about weight and saying that, oh, no, my flyweight champion can weigh up to 135 pounds. No, I'm sorry, you can't do that when you come here. If your fighter weighs at 135, he's a bantamweight fighter. Yeah. And you can continue on with whatever you're talking about, how you do hydration tests. In the end, I'm sorry, it's just not. It's not factual. It doesn't really work. You're just allowing your fighters to have more weight on them, and that's okay. I'm okay with it as long as they're okay with it. They're the one signing the contract. They're the one getting into the cage with it. But a weight of 125 is a weight of 125. 135 is 135. You cannot sit there and tell me, well, my guy is a flyweight, but he weighs in at 135. Sorry, he's not a flyweight. Yeah. He's a bantamweight. But, Luke Thomas did bring it up, and, he says this is new on-point MMA report on one's weigh-in protocol, in particular the use of hydration testing, is a devastating takedown. In short, there's almost no science to any of it, and that's something that like when I was at the state of California and Andy Foster was trying to change, and you came to a couple of things we did for, to look at the weigh-in system and what we could do to try to make it better for the athlete and make it to where it was healthier for the athlete, because people are going to cut weight. And, you saw how many opposing views to switch it, don't switch it, all these different things. And, people are always going to have their idea of what they think is best, but you have to have something that's factual. And unfortunately, we do have facts when it comes to how people weigh in, how much they lose and stuff. But again, laws and everything get involved in all of this, Josh. And it's the ability, that when we have a licensed fighter with a state, we can do what we want. We can have that fighter step on a scale. We can do all these things. But until they're licensed, you can't do that. Yeah. And these are legal issues that come up with everything. So people are like, well, why don't you just do this? When the fighter comes to the state to fight and gets licensed, the athletic commission can have them step on a scale. They can check their weight early. They can do all those things.
Yeah. I brought this up to you.
I brought
this up to you. I said, hey, once the bout agreement's signed, then that maybe this promotions should require them to get licensed right away. So then they have to have their weight checked and their hydration checked immediately. Right from that point of them signing, and then every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or whatever the commission wants to allow. But you brought up a good point, and I didn't think about this, is that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer in that situation. Explain that, John.
Well, you're taking a look, when you make a rule for MMA, it's not about what the UFC is going to do or what Bellator is going to do. That's the easy ones. You have all of these levels within promotions that go down, and you get these grassroots promotions. You have promoters, they cannot afford to do some of the things that Bellator will say okay to, or the UFC will say okay to. It just doesn't work, and you can't sit there and say, well, we're going to do this for this promotion, but not do it for this promotion. That's in our regulations. You can sit there and say, if you're going to have a pay-per-view event, we can go under these regulations, but it becomes very complicated for the whole issue.
Yeah, because then you have companies that help build the sport. Basically, you've got feeder, whether it's LFA, whether it's Titan, whether it's Shark Fights, or whatever the companies are. That King of the Cage. All of these companies, they can't afford to do it. They're barely getting by, but they love the sport so much that they make a little bit of money here and there.
And they're important for the fighters, because as a young fighter, you've got to have these places to test your skills, to improve on things, all these things before you get to the bigger shows. You've got to have these places there. Orange County Fight Club and things like that. Look, at those things are imperative to the growth of the sport and the growth of the fighters themselves.
John, when was it when we were in that meeting? Because I remember Andy Foster had actually reached out to me during that meeting and said, Josh, what are your thoughts on these hydration tests? And I said, they're a joke. We've been faking those in college for years. Okay. It was the easiest thing to fake. And if you didn't know how to do it, then you learned from somebody else who had been doing it already. And so I said, to me, that was one of the biggest jokes when I heard that one was doing the hydration test. And I just said, look, if that's what they want to do to save face, that's great. And I have nothing. I worked for one. I loved it. I admired the fact that they were trying to get ahead of the problem, or at least trying to put a Band-Aid over this issue that they had.
Trying to make it look better.
To make it look better. And I understood what they were doing, because you have to remember in this, on point MMA report, I can't remember the guy's name that was doing it. Okay. But I went through the whole video. He brought up some good points. There's ways they implemented this thing, I think 12 or 15 days after the fighter in one had passed away.
Yes.
That's not enough time to develop a program or a protocol. Yeah. To stop these fighters. And they thought by just saying, we're going to give hydration tests. But let me remind you guys, I've been cutting weight since I was about 11, 12 years old, for wrestling and then for obviously moving on to fighting. It's an art form. If you don't think
Yes,
it's an
it
art
is.
form, you have idiots that are amateurs. You have idiots that have never wrestled before in their lives, that have never had to really cut weight. There's a technique behind it. And when you talk about, there's a lot of issues as well on how you do it and how I did it. And I started developing different ways to do it as I matured as a fighter. I would water load. I drink 2 to 2.5 gallons. The first day on, say, Sunday. This is the week of the fight. I would drink 2 gallons or 2.5 gallons on Sunday. Monday, I would drink 2 gallons.
That's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water. But what you're doing is you're filling your body up with water, letting it realize how hydrated it is. So what does it want to do? It just wants to piss. It keeps thinking that you're hydrated. So then that's on Monday, I'm drinking 2 gallons. On Tuesday, I'm drinking 1.5 gallons, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on my body. By Wednesday, I'm only down to about 3/4 gallon. Thursday, I'm sipping. I'm not drinking anything. I'm barely eating. I'm eating like a tiny little portion every 2 hours. I'm eating something small. And then on Thursday evening is when I start my cut. And I'm just cutting, and I'm just cutting, and I'm just cutting. And I'm using the sauna as the very last resort. I shadow box, I move. But when you are water loading, what people don't realize, it has that reversed effect. When I water load, I'm pissing so much that my weight is actually dropping because my kidneys or my liver and all that stuff feel like I'm overhydrated. So what does it do? It pisses and it pisses and it pisses. And that's exactly what this report from On Point MMA had talked about with the doctors. And the doctors are the ones reporting this. And in this report, and I can't wait for John to watch it because I want to revisit this later on after John watches it, is that these doctors have actually helped fighters, names to remain nameless. They have helped them make the weight without making the weight. So they have basically helped them cheat the system with the hydration test. Now everyone kind of knows, or at least almost every person that I know, is when you're trying to do a hydration test, after you have started cutting the weight, you drink distilled water, which forces your body to believe that you are hydrated. But in fact, you are not. And so you just piss it right out. It stores in your body. There's no electrolytes. You're not carrying anything. And so when that happens, you're able to piss and show that you're hydrated when you're not really hydrated. So there's also, like they were talking about, and I've known this too, is that there's different chemicals, different vitamins, different types of foods, all different types of things that you can eat that will make your body pretend that you're hydrated. And all you have to do is hold your piss in long enough to show that you're hydrated. And that's it. When you're not really hydrated, you're sucked in. Yep. And so this is a huge problem. And John, this is where I go back to when I was in that meeting. I said, there's a couple ways you can do this. And you and I have talked a little bit off camera right before this. And I said, I feel you should treat it a little bit like a wrestling match. And you should treat it a little bit like a jiu-jitsu match where you show up and you weigh in 1 hour before you get on the mat. Now, you give me a rebuttal to that because, fighters will always continue to try to cut and get a little bit of an edge. But we also know that you can't really cut more than, say, 2 to 5 pounds, depending on your body composition, without really affecting your performance. I would rather have a fighter cutting 2 to 5 pounds right before they fight than them cutting like TJ Dillashaw to get themselves all the way down and get knocked out right away. That's my take on that situation because there's less brain damage in that process.
I agree. I would rather see a fighter cut 2 to 5 pounds. I think you're right, but that's not what's going to happen because we've seen it too many times.
Tell me why won't it happen?
Because it's no different than what you're getting with one and some of the fighters there that are cheating the system because it comes down to that thought process of I want to be the bigger, stronger fighter. And if I can put it to where I am now way bigger than my opponent, then I'm going to do better. And so they're going to try to come down and they're going to end up losing too much weight right at the end of the fight, which now puts them in a position of danger based upon they are now fighting in a dehydrated state. They don't have enough time to rehydrate. You don't have enough time to rehydrate. But
that's you're not dehydrating enough though, John, to make yourself in a dehydrated state.
They're not going to be losing 2 to 5. They're going to be losing 10. They're going to be losing 11. Now, that's what they're going to be jumping down from.
Can you do that? Can you do that with weight checks? Once you say you weigh yourself, this is where we had talked about 3 weeks when I was at that meeting. I said, look, you weigh the fighters. The promotion weighs the fighters. Doesn't give a shit about what the commission does. The promotion weighs the fighters and says, hey, what is your weight 3 weeks or 2 weeks out? That is before every fighter starts cutting. That's before they really, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks is kind of that.
Three weeks before the show, you're at what the fighter
that
normally weighs.
You're getting in your peak shape. Yep, you're getting in your peak shape. So that's kind of when your diet has already got taken effect. You're feeling probably your best about 2 weeks out, and you're like, okay, I'm ripped, I'm shredded, I'm ready to go. I'm sure it's still a little heavy, but you know what? I feel really good right now. I'm eating what I want still. That is where the fighter should be fighting at. Now, when you show up the week of, you shouldn't be allowed to weigh any more than 5 pounds below that. So that's where I think that's where it comes in. Whatever your weight is at that point 2 weeks before, you need to fight within a 5 pound range, either higher or lower of that weight class.
See, so, what the real problem is what is the commission concerned with? Well, the commission is concerned with the health of the fighter along with the brain of the fighter. And I know that sounds weird, but we're talking about when you dehydrate, and you know this is true, and this is why you're saying it about TJ Dillashaw. You dehydrate yourself, you get hit, you get concussed much easier, much easier. So when you look at wrestling or jiu-jitsu, okay, and you hear people in jiu-jitsu all the time saying, oh yeah, I've got a fight next week. That's not a fight, guys.
No.
That's a grappling match. There's a difference in a fight. Okay, so the thing about jiu-jitsu or wrestling, and look at, they're both difficult. I'm not trying to take anything away from either one. You know, wrestling is ungodly hard at times. It's a grind, but you don't normally, generally, usually have any head trauma. Can you? Sure, you know, a guy can get thrown and land on the head or anything like that. But
it's hands down the most underappreciated sport in the game. Hands down, the most underappreciated sport is wrestling. The work that they put in, the grind they put in, all that stuff in the world, it's most unappreciated.
No doubt about it. But you look at any of them, you can have it to where the person, hey, you want to be dehydrated, you're just going to get really tired, go ahead. But you can have it in those because you're going to gas out, you're going to have problems, and you're going to end up losing, but you're not going to end up with brain damage. And that's where the commissions are now in this position. They're trying to balance. They're trying to say, all right, look, we know what guys are doing. We know what girls are doing. We see this, and we see it, and we especially see it in a lot of these amateur programs. These people knowing that they're going to get a same-day weigh-in, and like you said, they're amateurs at it, but same-day weigh-in, and they're coming in trying to lose 10, 11, 12 pounds on that day and then perform. And, you know, most of them they're finding out it's a bad idea, but you will get professionals doing the same thing. Not all, but you're going to get a lot of them. And it's not only they're dehydrated. It's the added thing of now we've put them in a position where we're talking about brain trauma. If you're, you know, the reason why it used to be, and I said this to you before, that used to be that when you fought Nate Diaz, there was one weigh-in. It was between 3 to 5 p.m., usually, you know, depending on if you were the first fight of the night or the last one, it was going to be a half-hour difference. But everyone was lined up, and they rolled everybody out, and you stepped on the scale, and you either made weight or you didn't, and then you had to maybe possibly go back. We had that, and it was a system where you figured that you had somewhere around 24 to up to maybe 30 hours at the max to rehydrate from that before you were actually competing. And so we went and looked and said, all right, let's try to do it where we give the fighter more time to rehydrate. They had to make the weight, but we'll give them more time to rehydrate, because if the more they're able to rehydrate, the better it is for their health and safety and against brain injury. That's why we came up with the early weigh-in and did the ceremonial weigh-ins later on. And you take a look at them and you go, all right, now they're being weighed in somewhere at 9 o'clock in the morning. So they get a full 24 hours to 9 o'clock, and then they're not competing until, we'll say, 9 o'clock. So that's another 12 hours. So we're looking at, 36 hours of time possibly. That's one of the things that I think happened with Islam in his fight against Volkanovski. Josh, he did that early morning weigh-in. They got at 9, but he was fighting by 12 the next day. He ended up in a position where he lost 9 to 10 hours of rehydration time, something that his body has gotten used to fighting here in the States in the normal time periods that fights take place. People have to figure in Perth, Australia, That show started somewhere around 7 a.m. in the morning, 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. And then the fights went on. He was obviously the last fight, but he lost close to 10 hours of rehydration time. And you can see it in the photos. You know, Dave put up those photos real quick. Just take a look at the way his body looks between his fight against Oliveira and his fight with Volkanovski. You can see there's a difference in the composition of his body.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate for the fan at home. They're like, well, why should he be able to have more time, though, to fight somebody at a smaller size and be able to cheat and put more weight on? So this is my argument with the commission. Look, I'm on Islam's side. Look, if you're going to make the rules and you decide to go from being the featherweight and go up to the lightweight division, you're going to have to deal with the person who's the bigger fighter. And Volkanovski knew that. But in this situation, he was, I guess you could say he was robbed of his ability to fully fill back out the way he has been able to, whether it was in Dubai, whether it was in Vegas, wherever he fought before. They have been doing that for the longest period of time. Yeah. But John, don't you, the way that weight cutting situation, whether it's Andy Foster, whether it's the Nevada State Athletic Commission or anyone allowing the earlier weigh-in, I get why they're doing it, is to get rid of the brain damage, because as we saw with TJ Dillashaw, it wasn't long enough. His ability to put the weight back on, develop the liquid back in his brain, and he had cut so much, you could see right away he wasn't the same fighter. You could see.
No, you absolutely could, but people need to understand, when you dehydrate a cell, okay, the human body is made up of how many billions of cells, right? Mm-hmm. When you dehydrate the cell, a cell is like this round ball, okay? And when you dehydrate it, it starts to flatten out, and it gets into this weird, and it'll have little lumpy, bumps on it. But when you put water back in, it doesn't just flow out into that nice ball again. It doesn't do that right away, and that's what people need to understand. The rehydration takes time. Mm-hmm. And they have figured, doctors have looked at it and they've given, this is the perfect amount of time. 48 hours is the right amount of time to properly rehydrate the body. We're not even giving them that 48 hours. We can't do it because we talked about, let's do the weigh-in 2 days before.
They would just cut more weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's no perfect answer, but the other part is it's the same as like with what you're saying when it comes to, let's do it 1 hour before. No promoter, zero promoters are going to want to do that. Yeah, why?
Because if the guy doesn't make the weight or something like that, then they lose the fight and they won't know won't know until right then before. And
it's too late to do anything about it.
I guess then you would just have to, and then like you said, it goes back to benefiting the bigger promotions, but you would have to have someone who is constantly checking this fighter's weight and saying, look, you guys are this close to not getting paid at all. And if this continues to happen, then these fighters, whether it's UFC, whether it's Bellator 1 or whatever, you guys may potentially be cut because you guys can't follow the rules. Yeah. And if I'm a promotion, I'm not jeopardizing spending millions of dollars on promoting you, especially as the main event, and you decide that you want to go and cut more weight. I understand. I'm not trying to take sides. I'm just trying to figure out a solution, because a lot of people get on here and say, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, but they never give solutions.
No,
never. And it's not easy. And like in this report on this,
there is no easy solution.
Yes. Everyone wants it to be like this. And there is no just easy way to change something that's been in history for forever. People have been cutting weight for the longest time. Yeah. And so like I said, for myself, for me, the way that I train, the way that I put effort out, but my weight cutting, I never weighed more than 172, 73 when I started my camp. Never. Even when I was fat and out of shape. My muscle just turned to fat. And I always stayed around that weight.
Stop. Back when you were fighting, you were never fat. And you were never really out of shape, so stop.
When I consider myself fat and out of shape.
At one time, I was pretty lean and I was in shape. Now I'm fat and out of shape.
I'm also not 80 years old like you though. But the bottom line is when I look at fighters that do huge weight cuts, huge. Now, I've had Islam come to camp 188, 189, 190. He showed up to the camp, 5 weeks out, about that weight, 4 to 5 weeks out. I've seen the same thing with Habib. I've seen the same thing with other DC. Fuck it, even at heavyweight. I'm like, bro, You know, DC, he performs his best. Cain Velasquez, same thing. They both know.
DC performs his best at 236,
at 236, 234 to 238, maybe 240, depending on who he's fighting. Yeah. That's when he performed his best.
That's where his body's most natural. If
he didn't get to that weight, you could have expected not a great performance, or just a little bit slower of a pace or whatever it was from him. Yeah. Cain, 232 to 230, 232 to 235 was his best performances. Yeah. His best, hands down. With Islam, I don't know what his weight was going to be, but they were saying it was 178, not 2. Sorry, 178 when he stepped in the cage. That's huge. That's huge. But
nah, it's not. It's actually.
Yeah, see, I never got over 170.
Yeah, but come on. Did you go to maybe 172 somewhere in there?
No, it was always 169 to 170. I remember fighting when I fought Nate. I weighed in like that day. I checked my weight that day at 168.
I can tell you, you say that 178, 155 pounder is now 178, but I've seen where a featherweight, 145 pounder, weighing in for a championship fight. So Max, right on weight, 178 pounds the night of the fight.
Max Holloway.
Yep.
He puts the weight back on, and he has great performances. Not all fighters can have that type of performance.
He was also very young.
Yeah, he was.
And the younger you are, the easier it is to do.
But for those of you guys that did watch the show from Sunday, when we dropped on Sunday, I had talked about this, and people were like, "Oh, just giving me a hard time." And I said and I didn't know that they hadn't done they didn't do the early weigh-ins. They kind of did, but it wasn't.
They did, but they didn't have the same amount of time.
They didn't have the same amount of time. But I even texted Habib, and Habib and I were talking back and forth, and I said, his body looked different. He looked smooth. He looked overtrained, or he had a really hard weight cut. And he texted me back, I 100% agree. He didn't look, and now that I have the side-by-side pictures right here in front of me, look at his body. Look at his abs on the left. Look at the ribs on the left.
Look at the intercostals. Look at all of it.
Look at his shoulders, how rounded they are. All of those things changed. He looks a little bit more fuller in the face. Everything looks different. Now, I know that the color, the tint, and the lighting is a little different on the right. So that's like taking someone who's ready to step on stage, on the left side in a bodybuilding contest when they're all spray painted.
Someone who's
and the guy on the right who's not spray painted. So I understand, but you look at the body and it looks different.
There's a difference in the body composition.
Yeah.
And that's night of the fight, so he's in shape, he's ready to go, he's done everything he's supposed to do. So you're seeing a vast difference in that composition. When I'm not saying that Oliveira he didn't get in great shape for. We knew what he did and who he trained with, but he did the same thing getting ready for Volkanovski. He did not take Volkanovski light. No, he knew what kind of fight it was going to be.
I feel that. And I'm not taking a look, and I want to make sure this is 100% clear. Alexander Volkanovski fought his fucking ass off. He fought fantastic. He did everything. He did things that 155 pounders, everything he could, but what he did was remarkable in my eyes. Absolutely remarkable. He did something that no other 55 pounders that he has fought has been able to do. That means get up. That means almost switch takedowns. Almost get a takedown. All of those things other fighters have not been able to do against him. And he did it. And he is the smaller, the lighter guy, all of those things. He landed some great shots. He did some great things. But I really do feel that in this situation is that the weight cut got to him and his body showed it. And I said that walking in. You and I were texting back and forth. I said that walking in the cage. He looks smooth. He looks flat. Something looks off. And we talked about his energy walking to the cage.
Yep.
I think he felt it. He felt that feeling. Now, look, I'm not here to make excuses for him. They both fought their asses off. They both fought a great fight. Everyone that had talked to had said to me, previously about the Oliveira fight and about anybody else he had fought. Oh, he's going to get knocked out. He doesn't have a chin. All of these things. A lot of this, I feel, has to do with on how well he does his weight cuts. He is someone that cuts a lot of weight. And I believe that whether his chin is good or not has to do with on how well his weight cut is. Because as we saw with TJ Dillashaw's got a hell of a chin. A hell of a chin. But he didn't have that chin against Henry Cejudo. Gone.
Well, and that's because he fought Triple C, who's got power
He's got power. He does some power.
No, he's got good power, actually. But you know what? TJ normally can take a really good shot.
Yeah, exactly. And in this fight, I saw a little bit of that just difference in him when he did get hit by Volk. And I don't think we see that again. If they do run it back, I don't expect to see the same fight. I think you're going to see a better Islam. Now, the next thing is, people didn't give, remember what do you recall? All I heard from a lot of media was that on the feet, Charles Oliveira was going to starch him. Charles Oliveira had the better stand-up. Charles Oliveira was going to basically do what he did to Chandler, do what he did to Dustin, do what he did to all these other guys on the feet. But in this, not just in the Charles fight, but in this fight, all I've heard is how great his stand-up looked. It looked phenomenal. What did you get away from him? What did you get away from this fight? His stand-up was on point. He stays composed. His defense is good. He doesn't get himself out of position. He doesn't outstretch on things. He is a very, very well-rounded fighter. I've said this forever. His stand-up is drastically underrated.
Okay. I agree with you. And I think he proved that against a guy who people thought in the stand-up was going to have a superiority edge in that. And it was, Volkanovski has so many things he has to overcome based upon his body style. You know, he does have, not that he has short arms, but no. when you're in that position, he's got to come up and he's got to come at his opponent, and he makes those rushes, and he does them in the featherweight division. He does them fantastic, you know, look what he did, you know, against, you know, the Korean Zombie, and how he just ate him up, coming in with those types of rushes and getting out before he ever got touched. Look, he's a stud. But this is the other part, Josh. It's hard to get rid of someone that's a great fighter that knows what the fuck they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not easy. I don't care who you are. And you had the two best guys going at it, and they put on a phenomenal performance, in my opinion. Both of them had their moments. Both of them stunned each other. Both of them showed grit throughout it. You know, the one thing that I look at that it was very surprising to me was the gas tank that Volkanovski was able to still have after powering himself out of certain things, because he did. Yeah. And didn't matter, man. He could use that power time after time because the dude's just in phenomenal condition.
Well, let's get into now the pound for pound conversation, because everyone's been talking about it. Who should be in the pound for pound number one spot? Who shouldn't be?
Who cares?
I agree with you. And like I said, this is really just kind of the media and people making something of nothing. But when I look at this, and I know people are going to probably say that I'm biased, and I'm not going to say that I do lean obviously a lot towards Islam. But when I look at this, Volkanovski did something that not a lot of people would have tried. Or people talk about trying but they never follow through.
Yeah.
You know, so in that situation, he wanted to come up to 155 and get it done. The bottom line is he didn't get it done. That person, now everyone's like, oh, well, he was a smaller guy. You got to take that out of the equation.
He's not the smaller guy. He was a lightweight.
You can't. Yeah, exactly. You got to take that out of the equation, because it's like a fighter who took a fight on short notice and saying, oh, well, I only had a week or two to train. No. Once you took that fight, you decided that you were in good enough shape to win. Otherwise, why did you take the fight? You can't use that as an excuse. Now, I thought he fought his ass off. I think he is fucking fantastic. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. Hands down, one of my favorite fighters to watch. Doubt. But when you go up and you challenge somebody at a heavier weight class and you come up short, you lose your spot to them. You tried. Now, if he would have stayed at the 45 and fought, you know, whether it was Josh Emmett or Yair or whoever, and got the win there, he would still be there. And I think that Islam would still be at number 2. That's how it would have worked out. But when you came up and then you lost to that fighter, you've got to put all the other stuff aside. That's not how these ratings work. That's not how these rankings work. Look, you went up, you tried, you didn't get it done. Now it switches, but you're not going anywhere. He's number 1, number 2 now. It's still the same. Yeah. You just flip flop. That's really what it came down to.
First off, how much does he make for being the pound for pound number 1?
Nothing. Big fat goose egg.
That's why it doesn't matter. Like exactly what you're saying. This is the number 1 in this is based upon what the reporter thought of the fight and who they thought won. Like go back and watch it. I was watching Joe Rogan, you know, was not part of the broadcast team, but he did his fight companion, and he had his his normal guys. You know, Eddie Bravo and Brendan was there, and Brian
by the way,
Callen.
it was great. It was great seeing them all together again.
Yeah,
I watched a little bit of it,
and so but they all picked Volkanovski. Now they're all drinking, right? They're all fucking doing things that you're not supposed to be doing while judging, but they all picked Volkanovski. Then they get together the next day and they go, "Yeah, maybe we got that wrong," and it's like, hey, you can, and it's a lot of it is based upon you saw these moments with Volkanovski, and again, I'm not. This is where it didn't work in the same way. But that rise of that crowd, the crowd in Perth was loud. Yeah. And they were there for Alexander Volkanovski, and they should have been. And that was awesome. And every time he did something, you heard and it started to go, right? Well, that influences everybody to a point. The judges didn't get influenced by it. They watched what punches were landing, what was having effect. And that's the big thing. These people are all, I don't care who touches who more. I care about who affects the fighter in the fight more, who does the more damaging shots, who does the things that creates the situations that can end the fight. When I love the people, what is it, the fourth round, I think it was, where Islam gets his back, puts in a body triangle, and you see Volkanovski is talking to him, and that's great. Volkanovski can do that, and he's throwing his hand back with the punches. Anybody who sits there and thinks that Volkanovski won that round, do me a favor, stop watching MMA. Yeah. Okay? Because punching backwards is annoying. It's not damaging. It's not effective. Okay? The person that's attempting to get the chokehold, the person that's attempting to do a submission is always going to get more than the person throwing back, because the throwing back is basically useless. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't damage. And so if all you see is the person on the back, we'll say what we call a seatbelt, and he's holding on and not ever attempting anything, then yeah, the punches are going to win because at least it's attempting something. And other than that, that's not effective striking. Remember what the terminology is. Effective striking. That's not.
Well, it's not even so much the effective striking. It's that you're in a finishing position from the back. When someone's on mount or someone's on the back, it's going to be very rare, because I had someone on Twitter ask me, like, why didn't they stand them up? I said, that is a finishing position. Stop. You're not standing somebody up from the mount or the back. It is not the referee's
job to be someone who's unfair. Do people not get this? If someone has the back of their opponent, they are in a position to end the fight, while their opponent is in a position only to do one thing: survive, or number two, escape.
That's two things.
Okay? That's what I said. Or, that's why after I thought. As a referee, when I take that person out of that position, what I'm doing is saying, I want this guy to win. And I'm going to make this unfair. I'm going to be unfair to both of these guys. So I'm going to be unfair to the fans. And I'm going to make sure that this guy gets out of this position. You can't do that.
Well, when I also was flipping through and I saw a little breakdown that Henry Cejudo did, I thought it was a fantastic breakdown, because I saw the clip of him watching the fight. I saw the clip of him waiting for the judge's decision and how he thought Volkanovski won. Then he went back and he reevaluated rounds 1, rounds 2, round 3, 4, and 5.
It was pretty simple.
Yeah, I agree with you, because we were texting after every round.
Yeah, I gave you the winner of each round as it went.
And it went exactly that way.
Yeah.
And so and Henry goes back and says, you know what? After I watched it, the harder strikes were landed by Islam in round 1. The harder strikes were landed by Islam in round 2.
Absolutely.
Round 3 went to Volkanovski. And round 4 went to Islam. And round 5 went to Volkanovski. It was a pretty clear-cut case on what the rounds were. Now, the one judge had it 4 rounds to 1.
Yeah, Derek Cleary had it 4 rounds, and I didn't agree with him. He gave Volkanovski only the 5th round.
The 5th round, which I thought, and I thought Volk won the 3rd. You and I were texting back and forth, and that's what we were talking about. Now, to go, like when you're talking about the fight companion, you're talking about Henry Cejudo, you're talking about other people when they watched it, go back and watch it again. And I like what Henry said, because a lot of times, John, I watch the fights without the sound.
Yeah.
Because the crowd does have an influence on me, and John, as well as I know, I'm that guy when I talk to a fighter, I can believe that fighter's going to lose. As soon as I walk away from that fighter, they've got me convinced they're going to win this fight.
That guy's going to win.
So I have to watch fights without the sound because if I'm listening to DC or I'm listening to Bisbing or I'm listening to whoever, or if I'm just listening to you, I can be swayed pretty damn easily. And so I watch it with the sound off majority of the time so I can watch the fight without the crowd, without the commentary, without any of that stuff being involved. And in that fight, I did have it up, but I didn't have it loud, so I wasn't really paying attention. But you and I were texting, and it was 3-2, and I thought it was 3-2, and then I thought it was pretty clear cut. And so for people to go back and go, hey man, like I thought he won. People thought Volkanovski won 4 rounds to 1, and I'm like, in what world are you watching? Go back and watch the fight.
But again, that's somebody watching, having a desire for one fighter to beat another fighter. You can't judge a fight based upon that. You have to not care. I don't care who wins. I just want to pick the person that actually does.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it was at the end of the day, the right person won the fight. Now, how you guys decide that you want to go, I believe MMA Fighting had Islam as ranked number 1 after I had heard that Ariel said that no, he thought Volkanovski should still be number 1. And then I think UFC, I don't know, it looks like UFC is keeping Volkanovski at number 1, which I think is a little bit of a slap in the face, but it is what it is. Because when you go up in weight,
that's what happens when you complain about the promotion.
Ooh, that could be true as well. That could be true as well. But I mean, overall, I thought there was a lot of good things came out of a lot of quick gun reactions on Saturday and Sunday that Volkanovski should have won. And then a lot of takebacks. Now that we're here on Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday was a lot of, wait, let me go watch it again.
Yeah.
Let me go see. And then now that they've watched it again, it's like, oh, well, you know what? I actually see how he won 3-2. Some people said 4-1 Islam, and I said no. I didn't agree with that either.
But it's all right.
I didn't agree with that either. So I thought it was 3-2. It was a close fight. I think the weight cut had a lot to do with it. I think you're going to see a better Islam if they do fight again. I'm not here to make excuses for my boy. I do know that he cuts a lot of weight. I know a lot of the behind the scenes and a lot of the inside stuff on how's his camp going. It was going great. There was a couple little things, that were hindering him a tiny bit, but nothing that would make anything happen. Nothing that would affect his performance whatsoever. He had a great camp, and I really believed it was the weight cut. And the fact is, when you get into the weight cutting situation, we talked about, I really would like to see some changes, John. And I think this affected this fight a lot. And I want to see some changes done properly. So like in us talking about the changes, I look at different ways to do it. I think that the promotions should be checking on their fighters, say 3 weeks before, what's your weight at? The week of, what's your weight at? You cannot weigh more than 5 pounds in that difference. And then you weigh in the day of, and you've got to be there around that same weight. There'd be no reason. If you're 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out from the fight, and I walked around 172, I've got to fight at 170 then. I can't make 155. And they're not adding more weight classes. So that they're not going to be hydrated enough to make that next weight class.
But let me ask you this, okay? And as simple as it gets, because this is what's going to happen. Josh, do fighters lie?
Absolutely.
All the time, right?
They cheat too, and they're all cheaters. Majority of them are cheaters.
So let me ask you. So do you know how to adjust your scale?
What do you mean?
Well, there's an adjustment on your scale to make it
absolutely.
So it's zeroed in, right?
Yeah.
And there's an adjustment that makes it so it's not zeroed in. So if I know that I'm fucking way overweight for my thing, but my promoter's calling me saying, hey, I want to see on the scale, I adjust my scale and I step on the scale and I show him my feet with the weight. So it's adjusted the proper, so I'm going to look good. I'm within my little range.
Yeah.
Guys are going to cheat, man. I'm just
Do you think, but the thing is though, is when that comes down to the week of, what are you going to do? Like what are you going to do?
Okay. I agree with you.
Okay.
But have you not seen guys do this?
I understand what you're saying, but as a fighter, you're jeopardizing your career with your promotion. And let's just say you're in the UFC. You're in the UFC and they've just promoted, you lied to them. Now they're like, fuck you. We're done with you.
First off, I'm telling you right now, the UFC will never.
Yeah, I understand that.
Ever.
I understand that.
Allow that this type of thing to happen. 1 hour before? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
God, no.
I mean, really, but when we talk about brain damage, though, John, you're now allowing someone to rehydrate up even more, to way more, to fight someone who potentially doesn't rehydrate as well. Everybody's body composition is different, and being able to hydrate even more, it depends on the person's body. And so now I'm allowing somebody who, say, like for me, I always fought at 170, 168 to 70. I never really fought over that when I was in shape and ready to fight. But can you imagine if I had to fight the new generation of lightweights? They're 178 to 183, 184, maybe even up to 185 by the time they fought. I've seen videos and I've seen pictures of Michael Chandler getting on the scale weighing 191. 191. So, and even Pat Healy, when I fought Pat Healy, he weighed 191 or 192. He sent the picture to one of the guys that worked for Strikeforce at the time. Yep, on there at 191 when I fought him, and he felt like 191.
He was that big.
So that's my point. Sorry, Chandler was 188 or 189, and what's his name was 191. Pat Healy.
That's crazy.
Just enormous. So now you're allowing, for myself, right now, it doesn't matter. If you're allowing them more time to recover and you're allowing them more time to cut more weight, that means that they're going to be even bigger. That causes more brain damage by me getting hit by that guy for 15 rounds.
15 rounds? What are you fighting
15 minutes.
rounds?
15 minutes. 15 minutes or 25 minutes. So there's,
man, you are in shape. You're going 15 MMA rounds? You're a bad man.
There's negatives to both sides.
Yes, there is.
There's negatives to both sides. So there's, like you said,
And
there's no easy fix.
There is no easy fix with it. It's not. This is way more complicated than people understand.
Yeah. But then, okay, look, you've been in these meetings for however long. Give me something. Give me something that you think we could potentially head in the right direction that all the promotions would be comfortable with.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Other than the early weigh-in to try to get that, and that was not easy to do. I'll tell you.
What was the holdup on the early weigh-ins? That baffles me, by the way. What was the holdup on that?
There's a lot of people there because the weigh-ins actually make certain promotions money. Oh, you're taking money away from us because now we can't have our weigh-ins. Sure, you can have it. It's just a ceremonial.
Do they charge for weigh-ins?
No, but they sell merchandise.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And I don't blame them.
No, not at all.
I don't blame them.
Because a lot of people that go to the weigh-ins don't actually go to the fights.
That's right. A lot of them don't have tickets. It's their chance to see the fighters and stuff, and they're going to watch somewhere else.
That's true.
So it's their chance to get their merchandise and stuff like that. And so, they make money, and I don't blame them. I understand it.
That's true.
That's why they still do the ceremonial.
I think that's still great for the sport, though. To see
it
the
is.
crowds.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing's going to beat. Remember when Habib and Conor, and I mean when Conor fought Jose Aldo too, just the crowd that was there, the back shots from behind Conor, and then the whole it was that. Those are like epic type days. And the same thing happened when De La Hoya fought way back in the day. Front row was all women. It was awesome. I mean, I know that there's no easy Band-Aid. I know that we can't fix it overnight. But I would like to say that if there was something that we could do, and I think it's the check the weights leading up to the show. That's one thing. Maybe then you say, okay, hey, you can't weigh more than this much. But also, too, you can't exceed the weight class above you.
That I agree with.
So like
that I agree with.
That
would be close to what I would tell you is my starting point of, look, I can't have you outweighing your next weight class. Which, some of them are only 10 pounds, some of them are 15, some of them are 20, but I can't have you outweighing your next weight class.
Yeah. I mean, that would make for a good argument for there to be the every 10 pounds until you get to 185.
Yes, it will. Yeah. Well, the 10 pounds is there.
I know it's there, John.
It's there.
For the fans at home that don't understand, the 165 pound weight class and the 175 pound weight class, they already exist. It's
in
just
the unified rules.
It's up to the promotions to adopt it. And
to use them.
They haven't used them. So there is a 165 pound weight class already in the unified rules and a 175 pound weight class. So,
what are they called?
What?
What are they called, John?
Super lightweight?
I believe it's super lightweight and super welter or something like that.
Oh, wouldn't it just be welter then if it was 75? Because welter would just go from
I'm sorry,
70
super
to
lightweight, welterweight is 75, and 85 middleweight. Yeah,
got it.
So with the post 70?
Yeah, you would have to get rid of it because then it'd be 5 pounds.
Yeah, you got a 5 pound difference in it.
So you have lightweight at 55, super lightweight at 65, and then welterweight at 75.
We'll put it out there the exact way it happened. So everyone knows the UFC was adamantly against this and then said, well, as long as you leave the 170-pound weight class, because at the time, who was their champion?
George St. Pierre.
Hello. And so if you leave it to where we still have 170 pounds, and then I think Robbie was coming in right about that time. But you leave it at 170 pounds, we'll okay to the 165 and 175. But we have to keep the 170. So if you look, it goes 145, 155, 165, 170, 175, 185. Wow,
that's weird. Why would you? I get the keeping it for GSP, but then as soon as GSP was gone, I would have moved it to 75.
It should have.
I would have. Yeah, interesting. Well, we riffed on that for quite a bit,
just a little.
But I think if you guys haven't watched our show, from Saturday, go back, or Sunday morning drop, check that show out. Talk about what we talked about, and then we revisited what we talked about on this show, and then just kind of correlate what the issues were. I felt like with Islam, the great performance that Volkanovski had in terms of with the weigh-ins, and all of those things play a big factor. But hey, before we go on to the next topic, we get into these card breakdown. Make sure you guys check us out on onlyfans.com/weighing-in. There's a nice video up that's for free. Go there, sign up, subscribe to our channel there, our page there. And there's free content on there right now. We're giving away free content. It's free. There will be some paid content coming in the future, but right now we want to give you guys as much free content as we can. There's some behind the scenes from Bellator from the whole week, not just a couple days, not just, but from the whole week we were there. And Dave did a really good job. So I'm kind of pumped to get your guys' reaction. Leave us some comments, maybe hit us up in the DMs, whatever it is. But get back to us and let us know. But join us over there.
Look at Josh and I want you to know that we are doing this for you guys. Yeah. All right. We want you to have the ability to go to OnlyFans and have an excuse. It's the Weighing In podcast. It's the only reason you're going to weighing to the OnlyFans. You can tell your wives, you can tell your girlfriends. I don't look at that other stuff. It's all about the Weighing In podcast.
This is exactly true, which is crazy because, John, when you look at the OnlyFans platform, right, there's only one other platform that has a bigger network of credit card transactions in the world. Only one. And which one is it, John? Go ahead.
The one that my wife is always on.
And I think everybody's wife is always on. Amazon. It's called Amazon.
I hate Amazon. I'm going to go to OnlyFans just to get back at my wife.
This is the number 2 platform in terms of credit card transactions, which is insane. But yeah, look, honestly, what we're doing this for is to bring more spotlight to the athletes and the fans, and being able to have you guys engaged in our show, because there's going to be a lot of content there, and abilities for you guys to join us on whether it's live chats, on whether it's fan Q&A for us to talk with you, person to person, and have you actually on a show that we actually host on that channel. So there's going to be a lot more hands-on, no pun intended, okay, for that. But this will definitely be for our fans, for our OnlyFans. So hopefully you guys subscribe to us over there. Once again, that's onlyfans.com/weighing-in. All right, John, before we move on, though, let's go to weighing-in-merch.com, pick up some of our merch, and also hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up and the bell to get some notifications. Also, go down in our descriptions. There's a link to our shorts channel. Hit that link, go there, subscribe, hit the bell for that, because we're dropping special content on that channel as well. You guys are getting so much content from us, man. Man, we're doing a good job, John. We're doing a great job. We're doing a great podcast. Dave's doing a great job, I should say.
We're like putting out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh, these other podcasts, man, they must be peanut butter and jealous. That was good.
Hello.
That was good.
That was one of your best ones.
Yes, it was. I actually stole that from an actor. He said it in some. What was the movie? James Franco. It was the one with the Korean something.
I don't know. I did a movie with James Franco.
Did you?
The Interview.
The Interview, where they're in China or not in China, but in North Korea. Yeah, he says, "Oh, he's."
I kissed James Franco. I want you to know that. Oh yeah, yeah.
On the lips.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like the mafia kiss. You grab him by the ears.
Is this an OnlyFans type thing?
Maybe. Yeah. That's another story.
All right. All right, well, hey, let's get into this UFC breakdown. We're gonna talk a couple fights. I mean, let's be honest. This is normally what happens right after a pay-per-view, especially a good pay-per-view.
Yes,
is they don't really have a stack card coming in the next
stack
week.
card.
They don't normally.
Hold on, I want this is a very good main event. I like the main event.
It is a great main event.
With the main event, it's a good fight.
It is.
I want you to go to the co-main event. Dave, pull up the co-main event.
All right, here.
Okay, nothing against Zach Poga. Good fighter, nice little 5-1 record. Jordan Wright, good guy, Beverly Hills Ninja. He's lost his last 3 fights.
He's the co-main event.
That kind of tells you right there.
Yeah, we're going to pick on a couple of these. Well, not pick on them. We're going to not pick on them. We're going to highlight some of the ones that we want to talk about on this. And we'll talk a little BKFC, I believe, also, right, Dave?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
All right, we'll talk a little bit of that because we got some legends fighting in there.
Jessica Andrade against Aaron Blanchfield is a very good fight. Aaron Blanchfield is a freaking stud on the ground. I am so impressed with her positioning, her ability to control, her ability to go after the submission, do damage with the strikes. She's got good ground and pound. The real question is, can she actually get Jessica Andrade down?
Can she deal with Jessica Andrade's power on the feet?
I don't know. Well,
that's another thing, John. Like Jessica Andrade, she'll take a shot to deliver a shot. She will lift you up and slam you on your head and win titles that way. Has it been
3 weeks? 3 weeks since her last fight?
She's still in shape. You know, she probably went home, probably ate a little bit, filled up a little bit, got right back into the camp when she found out.
She's that way. I mean, you take a look at these fights. That was at 125 pounds with Lauren Murphy, which was now what January 21st.
Yeah.
It's not even a month.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But John, sometimes those I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. Sometimes those are not the best situations and circumstances because you've kind of burned yourself a little bit too much.
Well, but she's not, because normally she was fighting at strawweight. That's where she became champion.
Yeah.
And this is up at flyweight. This is another 10 pounds. So I don't think that she's killing herself to lose the weight the way she did before.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the weight cut, though. I'm just talking about your body in general needs a little bit of time to rest. And you know that. Like, if you spent 6 weeks coming off of a win, your emotions are high, and we've seen this before. Cowboy Cerrone made his career off of this.
Yes.
And that's why he had an up-and-down career. He had a fantastic go, and then it was like, let me take another fight. And then it was like, okay, eventually
it catches up to you.
Eventually it catches up with you. Your body just needs time to recover. It needs time to rest. It needs time to fuel back up. It needs that energy. Yeah, de-stress is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes on into a fight camp. The mental of it all is just taxing, extremely taxing. It depends on who you are as well. Like for me, I fucking wear my heart on my sleeve. And so when it comes to fighting, it really comes out. And happy Valentine's Day, everyone, by the way. All this stuff. This who's the ref that did that? Yamauchi? Not Yamauchi. Yamasaki.
Yamasaki. There you go.
Yeah. So happy Valentine's Day.
Yamauchi's a good fighter.
Yeah, he is a very good fighter. We're actually going to talk about him in a little bit. But I would like to see. I'm happy for her to take this fight. I think she believes it's very winnable. This puts her right in that title contention of, hey, I want that rematch, or I want to get another fight there. So that puts her right into that title talk again. I just get concerned that you just went through a 6-week long camp, gave yourself a week to recover, and then she got the call probably, and now she's had 2 weeks of training, and now she's ready to fight again. It's a lot, John. It's a lot on your body and your mentality.
It is, but I tell you what, and she's going against someone in Aaron Blanchfield, who I think she's a stud. I mean, I love watching her fight. I love her ability to control the fight. So this is not going to be the same fight she had with Lauren Murphy. Now, I give it to Jessica. She looked fantastic in that fight. She just ate Lauren up in that, and great performance.
Yeah.
I think at this point right now, though, she's taken another step up with Aaron Blanchfield. I don't care about ratings. Aaron Blanchfield right now at this point is a tougher fight than Lauren Murphy.
Oh, absolutely.
This is going to be a very difficult fight. And if she ends up underneath her, look, we saw what happened when she went against the champ, and Shevchenko's got a good ground game. It ain't no better than Blanchfield's. And so Blanchfield, if she gets on top, look out, man. She is a finisher.
Yeah, but with Valentina, right, the physical strength is what played a factor in that. I think a little bit of the height. I don't think Blanchfield's going to be anywhere near as strong as Valentina Shevchenko. Now, I'm not trying to discredit. Her ability when she does get to the ground. I just think that the body clinch and the takedowns that Valentina possesses versus what Erin Blanchfield has in the wrestling department is going to be a little bit more of a struggle for her to get Jessica Andrade down. But I am looking for a good fight. If she's weak anywhere, Jessica, I think it's definitely on the ground. She could potentially just hang out on her back or get passed or get mounted and give up positions. Some places where she can't just explode out of and use her strength to get out of is where she's going to have some hard times. Yeah, but overall,
if her back's on the ground, she's definitely in trouble.
Yeah, this should be a good fight. Go ahead and scroll on down there. John, just let's pick out a couple fights.
Jim Miller versus Alexander Hernandez. That is a good fight.
Absolutely.
All right, it's a solid fight. It's one that I love Jim Miller. He's great. Been around more fights in the UFC than anybody. Going against, look at Alexander Hernandez. He gets a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But he's an athlete. He's tough. He fights hard. I enjoy watching him fight. I think this is a really enjoyable fight. This is a great matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I think in Jim, though, Jim is one of those guys. He's got a lot under his belt. He holds the record for the most wins, correct? And he got that against Donald. Most fights or the most wins?
Is it most wins too? I don't know. It could be.
I think it's the most wins also, I believe. So it's when he beat Cowboy is when he won that.
Okay.
Because right after that, when they did the interview, he said, "Hey, I think Cowboy's got some business." And I think Cowboy gave him the love.
UFC yesterday.
Most fights in UFC
history.
Most wins in UFC history also,
and most
correct?
wins in the UFC lightweight division.
Yes.
Lightweight division. Okay.
Got it. So that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. And I like Jim a lot, man.
Oh, dude.
He's a dog. Awesome. I mean, just his ability to get in there on the inside, his ability to outstrike people, utilize his submissions, his jiu-jitsu. And Alexander Hernandez, he's a dog in that first round and a half.
Yeah, that's about it. That's the whole thing.
But he possesses power.
First round.
Yeah.
And then it starts to tail off a little bit.
Yeah. And Jim is just crafty. I mean, like, I look at him a little bit how Andrei Arlovski has kind of made a resurgence. He's worked around what he's not able to do anymore in Jim Miller. So he's been able to work around those type of things. He can't wrestle as much anymore. He's just he struggles with some things. The speed is obviously a factor, but he's found ways to make it a dog fight to favor him and to get those wins. He's just got to be very careful of Hernandez in that first, that
first round. The speed factor is going to be evident.
The first 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes is going to be a problem, and then that first minute of the second round, and then I could look to see Jim probably start kicking that inside calf because he's southpaw, kicking that inside calf, kicking the inside leg, and then letting the hands go with the straight left and be able to connect with something. So it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah.
But overall,
I like who Joe Solicki is fighting. That is a great matchup.
That guy,
the unknown fighter. Right now,
that lets you know that's the attention they're giving this card.
But that's a tough one if you're Joe Solicki because you're sitting there and you don't even have an opponent. Obviously, I think he knows who the opponent is. They've given him, the name, and he knows, but we don't. So,
You know what's kind of sad though is all the way down there at the fourth fight of the night is Ovid St. Preux.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do there, John? This
is what happens, man. This is look, the fight games is a nasty business. It really is, and we eat our own, and OSP has put on some great performances throughout his career at times, been devastating with, the Von Flue choke, which a lot of people want to rename the OSP, but nope.
There can only be one, buddy. The guy
you're not the original, sorry, man.
No.
But going up against Philippe Lins, we've seen Philippe fight lots of times, fought in Bellator, fought in the UFC, he's got some good wins. He's had some tough losses, some big knockouts. Mm-hmm. It's actually a pretty evenly, matched fight. I understand why they're putting it together.
Yeah.
But you look at OSP, and this is a guy that, at one time main event.
Yeah.
Main event against John Jones, against Glover Teixeira, and now you're in the prelims, fourth fight in. Jeez. It's not the direction.
Is there anybody else on here you want to talk about?
Honestly, no.
Yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad because I would like to, give a little bit more love to everyone. But the match, the card's just not what it. This is normal.
It's not that exciting.
This is normal for after a pay-per-view. This is.
But
what
there
you're
could
gonna
be
get
some
that
good
next fight.
fights that occur. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see this being one of those knockdown dragouts. This is one of the cards if you're in the back. If most of you guys, I don't know if you guys know Burt Watson, but Burt used to get these guys fired up in the back, and now he works for Bellator in the back. He does the same exact thing. And it really does come down to, hey, you guys, this is your moment to shine, to say, hey, I deserve to be on a pay-per-view. Hey, I deserve to be on a primetime show. This is your moment to shine. This is for you to stand out and to make that $50,000. Because what happens when you guys get to the big shows, when they get to these big shows, normally those fights and those bonuses, they go to the people that are on the main card. Or they go to the ones that have been historically great crowd pleasers, whether it's Jim Miller, whether it's Cowboy Cerrone, people that they know always put on great fights. So this is your moment, because there's no other people on here that really have been known to shine. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So I wish them all the best of luck. So these are the fights that you should be able to get some good fights and some knockdown dragouts. So best of luck to all the fighters there. Yep. All right, Dave, what else you got for us?
All right, let's talk BKFC this weekend as well.
Ooh. Mike Richmond against Hunt. That's a good fight. Mike Richmond used to fight for Bellator. He was a featherweight. I want to know what weight this is at, because it's 175. That's 30 pounds over what he used to. And I can see it in his face. But Mike Richmond, tough dude, good stand-up fighter. And this is for their championship, isn't it? Yeah, championship bout. That's kind of cool. Hunt is the champion. We'll see if Richmond can get it done. I love how people look at the whole bare knuckle boxing and stuff. Look at it; it's a good sport, and this is where I say this, and people get all. It cracks me up that you can sit there and say it's okay to hit somebody with a shin, an elbow, a knee that has no padding on it, but God knows, don't ever allow them to hit a hand. It's like. Yeah, in MMA we do things a lot worse than just hit with the hands. That a lot heavier tools and a lot more damage are done by them, and those are okay. But BKC is its own sport, And the ones that I don't like is the next one. I don't, and I love Diego Sanchez. Yeah. I love him as an MMA fighter. I don't like him as a bare knuckle boxer. As far as it's just, I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying he's not used to doing it. And the person they put him against is Austin Trout, who was a sensational boxer, a world champion. And now Diego's going to fight Austin Trout in bare knuckle boxing. I freaking don't like this one.
Yeah, and Diego's never been known for his stand-up.
No.
And so it does bother me. It does get to me a little bit. But you know what, though? At this stage, Diego's going to do what Diego wants to do. I look at a little bit like you want the best for him. I've always admired the way he's fought. I loved him as a fighter. But at the end of the day, fighters have a hard time just letting go. I mean, you look at Bigfoot Silva right now. You look at, Diego's still very capable of being a fighter. And maybe not at the highest level, but he's still extremely capable. But just stylistically, this is a bad matchup for him.
Oh, bad. John Dodson against Grant. Look at John Dodson, just had a great fight in Ryzen, got a big quick knockout, and he's been doing very well in bare knuckles. So that's another one to watch.
Is that Greg Hardy over there on the far left?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, sir. BKFC pulls in them all. They pull them all in.
Bro, they got money to spend. Shit.
Boy, I tell you what. Some investors are putting some money out.
If I had some balls, man, I might try it. I don't have any balls, though. No way. There is no way, John. Jeez.
Yeah, if you take a look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Over 10 MMA fighters. Boom.
Yeah. John, I used to not get paid to fight in the street.
Or you got yelled at when you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Coker would call me up. Hey, if you're going to fight in the clubs for free, let me know.
Just let me know, man. I'll put you on.
I can stop paying you anytime, buddy. I'm like, fuck. All right.
That's it.
Can't
blame him.
Man, well, hey, Greg Hardy, man. Best of luck, my man. Best of luck. Outside of
You
that,
should do all right.
yeah, he should. He's a big guy. He's a mountain of a man.
Huge.
Mountain
Oh,
of a
and this
man.
he doesn't have to
Huge.
cut weight.
Yeah. All right, what do we got? You got anything else for us? Oh, wait, at the top of this, look at this. Brought to you by OnlyFans.
Oh, look at there.
Yeah.
How about
there
that?
you go. I mean, like I said, John, we know they've started a whole sports division. They're trying to really try and tap into the sports industry. They're sponsoring Formula One. They're sponsoring MMA fighters. They're working on some boxers.
World
They had,
Championship Boxing.
Andy Ruiz, they had him for a little bit. You know, they're really trying to get themselves into the sport industry to start trying to get more active athletes. So good for them. All right.
All right. We're going to wrap up on Bellator fight announcement. This came out, I think it was last week, 5 days ago. So, you know, right before the pay-per-view, but there was so much going on that we didn't get a chance to touch on it. So I want to give you guys a chance to talk about this welterweight bout in Bellator.
Yeah, this is a MVP versus Goichi Yamauchi, who I really enjoy watching Goichi fight. This guy's got slick submissions. He is a very talented fighter, both in the stand-up and on the ground. Very calm, very relaxed throughout. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Before, when he's still super young. And you look at him in this, he's grown in through, he actually started at lightweight, went to featherweight, then back to lightweight. Now is up at welterweight, which he should be because he's got a huge frame. He's big.
Thick, man. He's thick.
Yeah. And he had a beautiful knockout of Naaman Gracie in his last fight, that uppercut. Fantastic. But he definitely is not going to want to be in a stand-up battle with MVP. You know, if you're being, honest about this, you look at where's the place to go with MVP, try to get him to the ground, and he definitely has the ground game to create problems, and he will catch MVP in the transition. That's the best part of watching someone like Goichi is he's throwing things on while people are just trying to think that they're being controlled and they're trying to get themselves up. You start putting your arms in certain places and everything, he's going to take it and he's going to try to take it home. So makes it for, you look at the style to beat MVP, it's the wrestler, the guy that can take him off his feet, but the wrestler can't hurt him. He's got good defense. This one is different. This is someone that can definitely cause him problems. It goes to the ground. He's going to have to be very careful of how he normally gets up or any of those things because this is a guy that's very slick with his submissions.
So I would normally agree with you in this situation, but where I look at MVP is that he's capable of doing things that other guys are not capable of doing.
In the stand-up.
On the ground is when Yamauchi goes to get the takedown, as you saw with Logan Storley, when he does his stiff arm, you're already down by his ankles because he's so long. Yeah. So Yamauchi's going to have to dive on an ankle lock. He's going to have to try to get to that position. Otherwise, I don't see him being able to get in deep enough. And if he does get in deep enough, him just pushing him down the legs, his transitions to get to the back, like Logan was even trying to get to the back. He couldn't get to the back. Trying to threaten submissions from those positions jeopardizes you losing the takedown. One thing that I've watched after the years of watching MVP fight, he understands they only have one way of beating him, and that's by taking him down. And his movement is great. We know that. Okay, but his ability, like he showed with Logan was caught off guard. He said, what did Logan tell you? And
he told me straight out, he goes, that is the fastest son. I goes, I didn't realize how much ground he could cover so fast.
Yeah. He's so fast that he'll cover 8-9 feet in one just little hop forward.
One little motion.
He'll get in, he'll get out, or he'll hit you with something and then he'll flying knee you from 7-8 feet away. It feels so different when you're in there with someone. You can watch them on TV, but it's just not the same when you're inside that cage. It's completely different. So Yamauchi's got his work cut out for him, and I do believe, sure, he can win, but I'm going to lean a little bit more towards MVP on this fight because I believe his style just poses so many different threats.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the matchup, and it seems like it's always, the stand-up of MVP versus what is the other person. The only guy that really is that we would look at that MVP fought was Douglas Lima, and even Douglas Lima, especially in the second fight, only worked to try to take him down. That was the big thing, is get him to the ground. So we're going to see. It's interesting. The difference in Yamauchi doesn't really shoot takedowns. Mm-hmm. He doesn't. Mm-hmm. He lets his opponents do things, and they end up almost taking him down at times, or they get twisted in emotion and he just flows with it, and the fight ends up going down. So he definitely doesn't burn energy trying to get takedowns.
No. Yeah, I like that he doesn't do that. He allows the opponent to come in and kind of clinch with him, but he doesn't have to worry about MVP doing that.
No, I don't think so.
He's
I think he does have to worry that the MVP's not going to do that.
No, that's one way of looking at it. All right, guys. Well, hey, hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. This is a great midweek show, and go to WeighingInMerch.com, pick up some of our new designs that are out, shirts, hoodies, different types of sweatshirts, and of course, we've got plenty of hats to choose from. So check it all out. We've got the new logo,
nice
the
one
old
being
logo.
worn by you right now.
Yes, it is right there.
Oh,
Actually, I
baby.
really like this fit, to be honest. This is
It's a
great.
good one.
And then, obviously that one right there says, "Let's get it on."
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I just can't walk around with that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very well. And also, please do us a favor. Head over to onlyfans.com/weighing-in. Check it out. Subscribe. And I want to thank you guys for continuing to support us. And John, take us away.
For everyone out there, we hope you enjoyed it. You know what? Give us your comments on what you think about weight cutting. Let's hear some of your ideas. Let's see what you have to say on it, because like we said, very complicated. So there's no easy fix. So talk to us. I will even read the comments on this one because I want to know what you're saying about that weight cutting, and we will see you.